talking
Brand new.
about stuff.
Not much stuff though. Not much is going on.
Well, yeah, I guess that is largely true. I feel it's still maybe pretty similar to last week. In terms of hobby happenings, I don't think any of us have done that much in terms of hobby related stuff. I am happy to say I finished drawing the holiday greeting card for the blog, and so that's the picture that's up now. Fish up there, the mechanical frog is going to
Yeah,
deliver presents or whatnot to people.
a bag of skulls.
Could be a bag of skulls.
Adam, what's on your orange t-shirt?
It's just for the University of Pittsburgh. It's not
Oh,
very exciting.
okay.
Not a New Day Rising t-shirt or something.
That
No.
would have been fucking sick. Fucking sick. If it was that.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's what I spent most of my time on. I guess I did a little work on some Blood Bowl miniatures, but nothing that's really worth showing.
Uh huh.
Um,
I hate to say, but I like haven't done anything. That time of year, no motivation. Like work related stuff. And,
I feel I have plenty of motivation, it's just I don't have the time to do the stuff. I
yeah,
guess one thing I'd love to continue reading like the rules of Blood Bowl and dare I say even Warhammer 40,000. And I guess I read through most of the rules for a little skirmish game F28. And so that's something I know the three of us want to talk more about, probably both on like live streams like this. And then we'll probably also do a review of the gaming system on the blog in a little while, but I think for some of that it's like a skirmish based game, or you can use it at many different levels, but it would work well for skirmish based games, and it can be focused into more narrative driven ones. So our sort of idea behind it was it'd be cool if we could actually play some games with the rule system, but us being in the midst of the pandemic for months now have not lent itself well to doing anything like that.
yeah, nah, it's true. I mean, I guess in some sense, it would be great if I used it as an opportunity to finish painting some terrain to use it with. To have
Hmm.
those Immortalis floor tiles and stuff painted, but I have all the little wall sections that ideally I should paint. I guess it's something I need to get better or think about way to paint terrain like a quick way.
Yeah.
And it's a very different thing to tackle than miniature painting, I think, or at least for me. But yeah, well, what's your thought on 20 F28, Adam? Of what you've read, any takeaway messages?
Um, it seems to be a pretty flexible system that I think would allow you could kind of work it into just about any like Ink 28 game that you wanted to play. And it kind of has a what makes it in some regards unique from other rule sets is it actually talks about having a GM or like a game master to help kind of run and manage like the
Yeah.
game system and like say narrative elements and stuff of it. So I think that is good. And I guess also I think in a lot of the Ink 28 skirmish games and stuff we've played, there's always been someone who kind of took the role of the game master,
Yeah.
and I think that is an important role, even if it's not talked about too much, particularly if you want a game or a series of games that actually have some flow or narrative elements to them. But
Yeah, I mean, I need to. I read through the rules, and I probably need to do it again, having kind of just grasped the whole concept of it. But it seems pretty streamlined and kind of simplified stat lines for most models, such that it is pretty quick, and there's not like a lot of rules you'd have to memorize or know. So I think it makes things, I don't know, quick and easy to pick up. And particularly with some of the, as you suggested, Adam, the Ink 28 style events and things we played, like I know the Iron Sleets, the Pilgrim event, it would have worked, I think, fairly well for that because
mhm.
a lot of it, the rules when we played that were pretty loose and kind of like 4+, if whatever you want to do, 4+, and it'll perhaps probably work unless there's some reason that it would be better or worse. So I think it's helpful for that. Although, and I kind of liked it in the after the rules, there's kind of the author has a sort of notes and thoughts section where he sort of talks about some of his thoughts for why things were done the way they were. And it kind of talks about some interesting things, but also just sort of mentions how it it isn't necessarily a game for the sort of person who like really likes competitive things and likes really granular rules,
Mhm.
uh, exploits and such. It is more for like narrative experiences and whatnot. So yeah, I think pretty right up the alley of Ink 28 and Age of Sigmar 28. And it also has this. I mean, we can talk more about this when we talk about the game more specifically. But it also has kind of an interesting system where people can react to actions and stuff that other people are doing.
Mhm.
Interesting. But I think I would need to actually play a game or two to see how well it works in practice, I think. But it seems neat.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you can't get it as like a PDF.
Yeah, I feel the
No,
biggest thing that I can say that I would put against the game or the rule set is mainly just how inaccessible it is. If you want to get it, you have to buy a physical version of it, and it's not really offered at very many places. Like the main place you would look to get it, particularly in the United States, is through Wargame Vault.
I kind of think that's everywhere.
Yeah, it might be everywhere.
So
Um,
yeah, it's kind of a weird thing in the sense that the actual core rules to it is pretty light, and there's not that much there. I think it would be almost like an ideal thing that they would release a small PDF of just the core rules that's,
mhm.
for free to get people interested in the system. But then if you want all the additional content, because the book has a lot of additional stuff like campaign settings and whatnot for all of for narrative, skirmish, and like battlefield or like the larger scale. And so there's like a lot of world building things and stuff to help with GMs and stat lines for factions and this and that that I think would would be useful if you wanted to create some large campaign or do different things that I think if people like the basic rules and are having fun with it, I could see people be like, yeah, I would like to pay for this and get a hard copy and that sort of thing. But I think they're kind of the creators maybe somewhat shooting themselves in the foot by just releasing it in this capacity. But
Carl Bergstrom, I believe, he was the
yeah,
one of the main authors who wrote the rule set.
I mean, honestly, it feels like the ideal, and it's also like it's kind of clear this is their first game system. Like the layout in the book isn't is pretty simple. There aren't too many illustrations or pictures, and they're pretty rudimentary. And to me, it almost seems like the ideal thing for like a Kickstarter, in which you again release basic rules of like 15 pages for free, and get people excited about it, and then use the money earned to, I don't know, hire more of a team to add more art and whatnot, get better printing, and I don't know, all those things to make it even more exciting. Because yeah, just as we said, as it is, it's so hard to get it or to see, to even know if you're interested in it, which I think is works against it. But
Yeah, and I mean, I
yeah,
think particularly now, it's become. It almost seems as if everyone and their brother has been releasing new rule systems. Like there are tons of rule systems that you could look towards or get excited about. So like it's hard. Yeah, like Planet 28 is an example.
Fabula, like Anna from Gardens of Hecate,
Yeah.
that like Turnip 28, I think is going to release a rule set.
Yeah, I mean there
Or
are so many rule sets that are available that you could look to. Um, I almost feel like the ones that'll end up being used, for better or for worse, are just the ones that get more screen time or
are just
advertisement.
accessible. I mean, are just accessible to people, I think.
Yeah. But yeah, so I guess we'll come back to this in the future, talking more about it, our thoughts on it, maybe be a little more specific about it. And we'll probably have
Mm.
a post or two on the blog as well. So if you're into different and unique rule sets, look forward to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so as I was saying, I've been working on drawing holiday cards, and in addition to that, I was sort of looking back through holiday cards that I drew in years past that I haven't thought about or even remembered. And probably the one that excited me the most was one that I drew, I think in 2008 or 2009, where I have this little frog here, Bishop again, who's sort of dressed up as like a colonial marine from the Aliens franchise. And here he's building a snow xenomorph. And I had largely forgotten about the illustration, but seeing it again, it brought a smile to my face.
Yeah. The pulse rifle and all that.
Yeah, he has his little pulse rifle. He has a little card up in his little helmet.
Yeah,
He's ready.
speaking of snow, there's supposed to be a big snowstorm on the East Coast tomorrow.
Yeah, there is. Maybe a foot of snow, apparently. We'll see.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
Adam and I are a little too south to probably get a whole lot, but I'd still like to see some.
I hope there's snow so I can watch the birds come to our little
Yeah.
bird feeders and stuff.
Yeah, that would be nice.
We'll see. But yeah, so that's what I've been working on.
Yeah, it kind of suggested I haven't been doing too much. Admittedly, we got a copy of Lionel Johnson, the most recent Forge World Primarch model, and as expected, the cast is not fantastic.
Well, yeah, so I'm looking at this picture that you sent. So there's a pretty weird mold shift running along the side of the model. Like, how much of that is actually covered by other things? Like, the part on the body looks particularly bad.
That's all covered.
Okay. But then
There's
on the side of the leg, certainly isn't.
No, but that's not too bad.
Yeah, I mean that's what I come to expect with Forge World. But you
Yeah,
can see in the back corner, that's pretty fucking bad actually. On
I
the
feel the worst part
opposite leg,
is worse in all of the yeah. In like the back of them where the joints are, there's like just pretty bad shift. That I mean, I'm pretty confident almost everybody who buys this model gets shit like this. Just what Forge World likes to do.
like
See it?
if it were me, I'd be tempted to just try and like cut some of that out and then just resculpt all of the webbing behind his leg. Like, because I don't. You're not gonna be
Yeah.
able to fix that even with an X-Acto knife and being careful.
No. A lot of the other stuff there, I was able to. I sort of chiseled it away and smoothed it out, and it looks pretty all right.
Yeah, wow, that looks bad.
I didn't try to do the joints back there. Admittedly, most of the other components are pretty good, but just like I feel every single body of a Primarch has shit like this. And if it was like a $30 model, like okay, or 50 or something, even that would be kind of bad. But I think it's like $130. Like, why do you have to deal with that?
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to re-sculpt details or convince yourself you don't care.
Yeah,
Oh
because
no.
it's interesting,
Yeah,
like the webbing behind his knee, it's not even. I mean, I guess
both
he
of,
has a cape. Maybe you won't, but like, I fucking don't want that.
yeah, both of the webbing on both in the back are bad like that.
Yeah, so literally, you would probably. What I would say would be the easiest thing to do would be to get like a little Dremel that fucking shit out, and then just resculpt it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, who doesn't want to resculpt their Forge World models? I mean, I sort of feel like it's been a long time. It's probably been over a year since I've really thought about Forge World models or like looked at a new Forge World model. And I feel every time I feel about once a year. Yeah, the mold line slide, but that's what we're talking about. Or about once a year I get a new Forge World model and I come into it with some excitement. And then
You get it
after
and realize why you don't like resin.
yeah, after getting the model and looking at it for a while, I kind of realized, like, I don't fucking want to deal with this. I don't want to scrape off all this bullshit and then re-sculpt everything. Like, what the fuck? Like, I don't want to do that. I have other things to work on.
Then I sense something that you can kind of see that I kind of scraped away and fixed some of the legs, but not the webbing on that other side is also.
Yeah, see, I feel everything is pretty easy to fix on the body here, except the, like, rubberized combat webbing or whatever between the legs.
Lifeboat, I think the reason they don't make these plastic is because to make the resin ones, silicone molds, I think it's just cheaper.
You'd probably have to have a lot of different pieces and cuts to actually have all of the different to achieve all of the detail and stuff that you see here.
Yeah, because in some of the detail and like the little fine details, they might struggle to get it with plastic, but I feel they could still do most. But mainly they just want to make it cheaper and not pass the savings on to the customer. Oh yeah, but then
Oh
like
my
actually
god.
the cape is
His
the other
cape is
bad.
horrible.
It's it's like there's a nice mold shift running right along the little filigree stuff. um, Particularly the Dark Angel symbol itself.
Yeah, it's bad.
I mean,
But I don't know why Games Workshop does any of the stuff it does in terms of producing its models, but it probably has to do with cost, as you mentioned there. or what they have easy access to. But so his cape, yeah, that's fucking awful. So again, he has this like at the bottom, oh my god, the bottom corner. You would like
You could that I think more than almost any like you couldn't save it, and then
yeah, you'd have
fixing
to
it's
probably
bad.
cut off the little sword with wings and
And
resculpt it if you really wanted it. But
yeah,
maybe you don't want even maybe you wouldn't even want it. How bad is the like mold release agent and stuff on it? You can sort of see some of it.
it's not terrible on him. On the base though, it's horrible. Which I mean, I
Okay.
don't think we would use, but I haven't tried to wash it off yet. But
The
a lot
thing,
of the other stuff is pretty good.
his helmet looks pretty good.
They've gotten better with bubbles and stuff. There really aren't many bubbles.
No, I think in general, most of the sculpts and stuff, and most of the models Games Workshop and Forge World release, they're a lot better than they used to be. And even in terms of like mold shifts, they're a lot, for the most part, are better. But
I thought it was neat to see the backpack, how much larger his backpack is than
a standard
a
Space
regular
Marine.
Space Marine. Yeah. And the fact that it's just a separate backpack and not like attached to a cape or some way. Like this would be something that you could just use elsewhere.
The
But
two
the other
swords
cool
he
thing,
has are cool.
yeah, they're two separate swords, each with their own scabbard, which I think is neat. And
I'm surprised neither of the swords look like they're horribly bent.
oh, they're bent.
Okay. Did
Let
you
me.
improve it, or it just
I
this
didn't
angle
try.
doesn't?
They're bent. The angle makes it look better than it is, but it's not. The way they're bent, thankfully, is just like to the side. So with hot water or something, it could be pretty easily bent into shape. It's not like bent in a way that it would
Oh
be
yeah,
hard to
there it
do.
is. That okay, that's pretty. Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's since it's largely just to the side, I think it wouldn't be that hard to fix. But obviously
God.
they're not. But I think most of that it's just like they do the molding process and probably to save time, they take them out of the mold when they're still warm
Mm-hmm.
and have it completely cured. So that happens. But the chain sword is cool in the sense that it's pretty thin. Like that's thinner than a
Probably
regular
the
space.
plastic ones.
Yeah.
It's funny.
And I don't even think there's an obvious mold line going up through the center.
It's pretty
Well, I'll be.
remarkable. Well, so I can say Greg sent me 2 Forge World models as well, and we can look at them at least. I mainly wanted to look at one of them. This Necromunda, what's his name? Dr. Arachnos, the
It's Dr.
rogue.
Octopus from Spider-Man.
Yeah, Dr. Octopus here. I was, dare I say, I think this model, the cast I received of this model, is probably one of the best I've ever seen from Forge World. And so we'll get to that soon, which was pretty remarkable. But one thing that I thought was kind of interesting, so the model, the packaging it comes in, it has like a little nice paper, like a colored paper of the model itself. On the back of it, it shows the instructions of how to assemble it, which are interesting. But then when you open the little thing up, there's something that actually describes the background of the model, which is kind of neat. And then it talks about some of the special rules of the model. And then in addition to that, there's another little insert that also has the profiles and rules for the character as well. So I don't know, I wasn't I wasn't really expecting anything from this, but it's pretty nice. Like, nice colored rules, the instructions, some background, like, that's neat. I was impressed.
Yeah, no, that's nice. That's which
But
admittedly, the lion, like he came with a relatively nice color sort of instruction thing. So some of that stuff, I feel it's nicer than it maybe
um
had before.
yeah. And then what was much more surprising
Yeah,
was the fact that the actual cast of the model, as I had said earlier, is probably the nicest I've ever might be the nicest I've ever seen from Forge World. And so how does this look on screen? I think it's
pretty good.
pretty well in focus. Um if you
Hey guys,
turn
I think I want to go to bed. Like, I only got like 4 hours of sleep last night. I want to try to get up early tomorrow to
Yeah, yeah.
get in before the snow. So
yeah,
I'm rocking out of here.
See you,
Good
Greg.
night, everybody. Thanks for joining this lifeboat.
yeah. See you,
Be
Greg.
safe, everybody.
Well, so if we look at this model itself, so if you like rotate it around, there really aren't any mold lines to speak of, except you look down in the corner here at the bottom of the model, there's a slight mold shift here, which you can kind of see some of it at the bottom.
Yeah.
There's a little, as it goes to his holster, there's a tiny amount that go up there that, in all actuality, it would probably be easiest to just get some milliput and add it in there, because trimming this off would be probably pretty hard, but you could fill it in pretty nicely.
End up more making a divot, like removing material.
Yeah, because it's not like a traditional mold line. This is like a slight shift or something. And then there are just some little channels and stuff from the molds themselves that you'll have to cut out, but like that's easy. And
Yeah,
then
the Lion had a lot of stuff like that. I feel they've just gotten better at making little channels like that to allow probably the pouring and such to fill the areas better, reduce bubbles and stuff.
yeah, and so yeah, it's good. So very little work would have to be done to the body of this model, which is impressive. There aren't many, if any, bubbles on it. I mean, I don't take lightly the fact that there are almost no mold lines on this, because there are essentially mold lines on everything, and this literally almost has none.
So that makes it seem like they should do something with it.
We probably should. I'll have to try and come up with something. But so that's the body, the main part of the model. We look at his one of the mecha dendrites and his hands pulling on his gloves. These also look good. There are certainly mold lines on his little mecha dendrites, but surprisingly, they're not shifted very badly. And one of the things that I always hated with a lot of Forge World models, there are a lot of, particularly on some of the gun barrels, they sometimes have this detailing where there are kind of like a row of like little saucers stacked on one another, and particularly on the barrels of like auto cannons and stuff like that. It looks cool, but they're almost always shifted and fucked up, and like you couldn't really fix it very easily. So there's nothing wrong with it really. The hands themselves, there are some slight mold lines, but nothing.
They look cool. They look good.
Yeah, I mean, it looks good. So the hands and the one mechadendrite are good. his backpack, again, is good.
For all the shit that, like, the little circular pieces and whatnot, if they weren't good, like, it would be a real pain to deal with.
Yeah, so you can see there are some slight chips down in some of the corners and edges here, which won't be a huge issue to trim off. But so it's cast well. Then we have another piece with his upper shoulders and arms. They again look good, and then also I guess his head. This, you can actually tell there's more significant mold lines on it, but they're really only focused on one half of the head, so in all things considered, they're really good. Then we have his little like mechadendrite Laz pistol. This is probably one of the worst of the casts. There are certainly mold lines here, but even these you could pretty easily remove with an X-Acto knife. And then on he has like a little servo skull that's tethered to him. Here you can see there's some extra like flashing that you'll have to physically cut out between some of the cabling. But that's not terrible. Let's sort of slowly remove some of it.
Yeah, overall that looks pretty good.
And then I guess what is the worst is he also has like a little buzzsaw. But I almost think this was intentionally done. There's flash, or maybe not, I don't really know, but there's flashing in between each individual like tooth of the saw. And that you will literally have to go in and cut it all individually out. Which
Yeah, that's fine.
Is sort of a pain, but based on,
I mean, admittedly, if the model was plastic, there would just be a mold line going down there that you would have to
deal with.
Every tooth. So
in this sense, it's great. So yeah, I can't stress this enough. Of all the Forge World models I've ever purchased, there was, I think, only one other model that was as good as this, if not maybe slightly better. And that was an Aeronauticus Imperialis, like Orc fighter bomber. It had like almost literally no mold lines, so to speak. This is the closest I've ever seen Forge World come to that. And
yeah, well, I feel it's just something like you have to be lucky. Whenever you order something, you have to be lucky. But I feel like everyone who plays the Horus Heresy and such, they like talk about, oh, with your tanks, like they're gonna be terrible to assemble. Like it's just a thing, which is kind of pathetic that it's like, oh well, we accept it. But
yeah, I don't
like
know.
low quality product.
I do think a lot of the Space Marine tanks and stuff over the years, they've redesigned some of them. Like I know some of the tanks were pretty like notoriously awful. Like
Sakaran, I know, was god awful initially because you had to put on the tracks and they never fit and whatnot.
that was true with one of maybe like the Land Raider Spartan or whatever. Like you actually, I think
that's what I meant to say.
Yeah, where you had to, I think you physically had to cut off a track to get it all to fit. But yeah. I think most of that, or maybe even all of that now, they've redesigned it such that you don't have to deal with that.
And the fact that now all those tanks and stuff are 3D designed.
Yeah, and you can tell with like a lot of these models, they're just very different. Like a lot of the detailing and stuff, like on, for instance, like the skull here, this does not look anything like the detailing on, say, Lionel Johnson and some of that stuff, which
Yeah.
it's different. But I mean, overall, it looks good. Like, I feel a lot of the detailing on this, it's a little softer
Yeah.
than like some of the stuff that I used to associate Forge World with. But overall, I would say I was impressed with the stuff that I received from Forge World. I guess seeing the lion that you had, Eric, maybe a little less so, but I think the lion is sort of exactly what I was expecting. So over the years, we've purchased a number of their Primarch models, and they're kind of a mixed bag. And typically the bodies are some of the worst. Like, they're pretty bad mold shifts just sporadically throughout the model.
I don't
But
think we've gotten a good Primarch, like the body that was actually good.
I don't
For a
think we
few,
ever have.
they sent replacements and they were always just as bad.
Yeah.
So,
So, I don't know. Maybe next year I will try and do something with this Doctor model, because the cast is so good that I wouldn't
yeah.
have to put that much work into it. Like, most of the work would literally be through cutting apart and modifying some of the pieces.
Well, I guess we have to think of what to do with Lionel Johnson too.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I
Maybe
feel,
that could be the first Primarch model we actually finish.
yeah, I think that
Could it
well,
be?
if you wanted to make it like a leader or some sort of model for the Iron Snakes, do you think they would be holding a sword?
I don't think it matters. It could be like a spear. So I think at least a little in. We should really read the book with the Iron Snakes in it to get a better sense.
That
But
I just wonder, like, I feel the way the pose is, I mean, you could probably modify it to be something else, but sometimes I feel people change poses on Primarch models and the poses don't quite work out as well as people want them to, just because oftentimes they're very obviously designed to be doing a particular thing.
I'll admit most people aren't that well versed in human anatomy and how the body moves and all that stuff. So it's just doing stuff by eye and hoping it's good enough.
And yeah, it's hard to modify stuff, or if you think you have an idea of something you want to do, pieces that'll work well together, you get those things, then realize they don't quite, but you don't have any other thoughts or ideas or
Well, can you take a
to
picture of the body of the lion, just like a straight on shot?
yeah.
'Cause I sort of like to see his pose a little better. It sort of looks like he's sort of bracing himself. His legs are a little farther apart than what, say, they might naturally be. So I think
W.
that kind of could create problems. Well, so I know Mixula from Iron Sleet, he recently converted and painted.
Yeah, you could probably find that.
Yeah, let me try and find it. He recently converted and painted his own version of the lion, which I think overall looked really nice, but like he's taken tons of pictures, kind of moody pictures of the model, and sometimes that makes it a little harder to get like a good look at the model itself and the actual posing of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, actually, let's look at him. Yeah, I mean, he's cool. He has this librarian sword, but I guess... Yeah, I don't know if the legs, the pose the lion has, his legs themselves, yeah, he's very much in kind of a bracing stance, and so the one Mixula
You
converted,
have
I
the
don't...
up.
Repeat that?
You have a picture up. It looks like it's still just showing.
Oh, wait, sorry, I didn't switch it back. Yeah, here's the one Mixula made, and so it looks good. I do feel his legs are not in a very natural pose.
Well, he's also the model. I sent some pictures of the thing of the body. It's sort of interesting that if you hold it front on squared with the legs, his body's twisted.
Yeah, so
And there's a second picture.
yeah, so I feel it's not a very natural pose.
Yeah, so that's if you go straight on with the chest, you can see
Yeah.
it interesting. Which, and I think often because the Primarch models do have poses sort of like this, that yeah, they're not always as amenable to changing stuff, without putting in a bunch of work. But I think Mixol did a pretty good job there. Looks like that his cape wasn't ruined.
Yeah, his the cape on his wasn't horribly miscast, so that's good. Good for him.
But you can kind of see that a lot of elements of the body have separate pieces of like robe that fit over top of it.
Yeah, so if you look at the picture I have up now of Mixula's version, so that you can tell a little more that the pose is a little more, it's a little awkward.
Well, in some sense, I feel maybe the most awkward thing here is that the twist he has in his body to the legs. I feel it sort of screams as though the head should be pointing the direction the legs are and not the body.
Yeah, so like I think if I were converting this model like Mixula did here, I physically would have cut the legs off and rotated them such that they were more in line with, because he's kind of has more of a forward facing straight on pose, and that's not, you would physically have to cut the legs off at the waist and rotate it. That I think would look more natural. But then again, who would want to do that? To do that, I guess you'd have to probably resculpt all of the robes and stuff, which you could do. And so I feel like this picture, the final picture here that I have up here, this is where it looks the best, because you can't tell that his legs are kind of rotated in a weird direction. And in many regards, since the model is so big and imposing, and there's so much going on, it's kind of easy to just forget or ignore that.
I think it's only that one angle that it looks like maybe it isn't. So, they have a nice little instruction thing there showing when to add stuff, and you can kind of see like all the robed elements that you actually add, as well as the little hip armor pieces.
Yeah, that's interesting. So,
And his cool scabbard for the chainsword as well.
because yeah, to me it looks like this model, he's kind of getting ready to like double-handed swing his sword back across, so he's physically twisted his upper body in a way that you wouldn't hold that pose for very long
Yeah.
before.
Hey, unsupervised darkness. We're doing well. Hope the same for you as well. Care to
Yeah.
guess when Lionel Johnson was cast? They have a
Hmm.
thing saying when the model was checked.
Was it? It was probably cast in 2020.
It was.
Does it actually have a month?
Yes.
Oh damn, really? Maybe last month.
Nope. Much
Jed,
earlier.
July.
Earlier.
Oh my god. Okay.
It was in
May.
March.
Oh damn. Holy
March.
shit, so that's a while ago.
Yeah. March.
So yeah, actually, Eric, I don't know. Looking at the model, I think what you would want to do, you'd want to take the body and cut off, like, I guess it depends on what we'd want to do with it, but if we'd want to change like the arm placement and stuff, which we probably would, the big thing we would need to do is at the model's waist, and it looks like it would actually be pretty easy to do. Cut off at the model's waist and
Yeah.
rotate it such that the front of the model's chest is facing forward and not twisted like that, because
Or at least
otherwise it looks
more
really,
forward.
yeah, it looks really weird unless you have the head, sort of like pointing the direction of
I
his
feel this is
knees.
a good example of I feel Simon Egan for a lot of his Primark models that they maybe at first glance someone are like, oh, that's kind of a static pose. But in actuality, there's like kind of a subtle sense of motion and that it is like capturing a snapshot of something
Yes.
more than a lot of DW stuff. And I think this is another kind of example of that.
Yeah, so as much as I hate to say this, Eric, like, I think what we will need to do is cut the model in half and rotate the body, and then probably, I guess I'll have to look at the pieces for the robes and whatnot. They probably won't fit anymore. Maybe they will.
I think a bunch of them still would fit fine.
We'll see, and then change that. But that'll be kind of interesting and fun to do.
Because then you can kind of see there that on the
Wait, he even
picture,
has a knife?
yeah, and some weird pistol. But you can kind of see that a bunch of the Dark Angel symbol is covered, even though like only you only see about half of it on the body, and then most of even that is then covered by the robe,
Yeah, I see that.
whi- which is interesting. That
So they actually sculpted most of it, which is,
yeah,
I
and
guess.
they had those separate pieces, I guess, just to get better cuts and more definition to the
Hmm.
robes, the folds, and that sort of thing, which I think is kind of nice. I mean, it's a really nice model.
Yeah, so we'll
I
have to cut it up.
I feel it would be cool to do something with one and with it and paint it and
Well, that's a
the
project for next year.
converting Primarks are all the rage. Uh, Unsupervised Darkness. This is a relatively new Forge World kit. One of the Primark models for the Dark Angels, Lionel Johnson, and we had been talking earlier about how Forge Worlds models always have mold shifts and things like that, and that this model was no exception. $130 was not enough, wasn't a high enough price tag to ensure that you don't have to deal with mold problems. Although it's pretty good though. Pretty good for Forge World anyway. But that isn't saying a huge amount.
Yeah, what the worst. Let me find picture. I clicked off of it. The worst here, certainly in between like the joints and the legs, they're pretty bad mold chips, so you'd have to probably just resculpt the webbing in between the armor plates.
Yeah. That is certainly the worst portion. Like it is on some of like the lower portion of the leg, which isn't terrible, but because it's sort of ribbed like that, it makes it such that it's not as easy as it could have been.
Yeah. But, I don't know, that's fine. It is what it is, it's sort of what I'd expect.
Yeah,
Yep, garage kit quality. No, yeah, I think that's true. Well, so you missed us talking about it a little earlier, which like we can go back to it briefly. We also got this Forge World Necromunda Doctor model, sort of on a whim because he was kind of cool and we liked his hands. And this model, I think, is the nicest Forge World, the second nicest Forge World cast I've ever received. Most of the pieces, particularly the body, almost has no real mold lines, so to speak, except at the very base of the model.
because it cost a lot less.
Well, yeah, because at the base of the model, you can see on the little these tabs, you can see there are clear mold lines there. But then as they go up to the model itself, there's just a tiny amount that shifted the bottom corner here, and then a little at the bottom of his pistol holster. And I've heard lots of people talk about, oh, I cast didn't have any mold lines, and that's almost universally like not true. They're typically always very faint but manageable mold lines on every model. And this one really has very little of them, particularly on the body. If you look at the individual, he has these little mechadendrites. Those have noticeable mold lines, but in most of the important details, they're largely lacking. They don't have the mold lines, so that makes it'd actually be easy to remove them. So that was a pleasant surprise. So pleasant that maybe I'll actually do something with this model. And I guess I will say he has a little buzzsaw. There is flashing in between each individual tooth, and that might even be by design, such that the resin actually goes out and finishes each tooth, because I feel a detail such as this, you often will, particularly on resin models, get it such that the very tips of each tooth has like a little air bubble in them, and then it's kind of just ruined, and there's not an easy way to fill them and make them look good unless you physically trim them down. Mind you, if I do something with this model, I probably wouldn't use this buzzsaw because it's too big and dumb looking. But the model itself looks great, and even his little backpack, which has a whole host of little circular vents and fans, these are notoriously bad on Forge World models. Like, the detailing's great, but oftentimes they'll have mold shifts like through the center of them, which largely ruins any detail. Any of the detailing, you'd kind of just have to sculpt over it. This, they're all the detailing is maintained, and there are some mold shifts in between the little brackets where you glue in the little servo arms. So it's good. So if you have any interest in this model, there is a chance if you order it, maybe the cast will be good. But it is possible that I just got lucky.
I feel you just got lucky. And I feel like Lionel Johnson, like in March.
Well, actually, where does it say that when it was sculpted? Did someone like sign a little thing?
Yeah, there's a thing that they included with it, a separate fold out that tells you like how to deal with
Oh, I didn't get that.
resin and how to clean it and clean up mold shifts and stuff like that. And there's a little stamp with an initial and a date. So like
Yeah,
please check
so
that the pieces are here, not that the cast is good, but
well, I mean, I think in terms of having a good or a bad cast, we're probably a lot more particular than a lot of people getting the models, such that all the tiny details and even like the hidden stuff, like it really bothers me if it's miscast or misshaped.
huge of them.
Yeah. So yeah, I was lucky. This model is really
I think
nice.
it's luck because every single piece, depending, like, has a different silicone mold, and some of them aren't going to be as good as others.
Oh wait, and I guess I didn't show his head. His head's pretty good too. Which I guess this is his little beaked head, which is cool. This is the type of thing. The detailing is small enough that any particularly bad mold lines would probably just literally ruin it. Unless you had the skill to resculpt it all yourself, which, yeah, most people aren't there. And I mean, I've gotten a lot better at sculpting, but I wouldn't want to try and do it.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to. You paid money for it.
Well, yeah. But yeah, so Forge World, it's a roll of the dice. Maybe you'll get lucky. You probably won't.
Yeah, it's true.
But okay, so we've talked enough about those. Do we... What do we want to talk about next? I guess we can... There's been some stuff on the Warhammer community page. We could talk about it briefly.
Yeah, not too much that's that interesting. They have a cool gift guide, though.
Oh. Well, the gift guide is... I don't know, well, let's look at it.
Not actually cool, it's pretty dumb.
Need some inspiration to find the right goodies for the Warhammer fans in your life? This article will set you straight. You've watched our holiday video this year, and you know that Jacob Bugsmanson 11th is the proprietor of what? I don't care, whatever.
Yeah, Unsupervised Darkness, the Plague Doctor mask is timely for 2020 and going on to 2021.
Wait, do they have...
There actually is an app that's...
Yeah, do they have a fucking app?
I don't know.
Whatever. Everyone would want the new...
There was a link up there for the online guide. Is it the same thing that's on this post, or?
Oh no, it's like a thing to shop. Wait, let's look at it. So, wait, new this Christmas? What does that mean? Does that mean like this Christmas you're a new player?
I don't know.
Or is it like new release things?
I think it's just new release
It's
things.
new release things, I think. Okay. Tournament players, if you're a tournament player, we're all tournament players.
Oh yeah.
There are 31 things.
These seem like
Hellhound, fucking yeah, Hellhounds.
I mean, maybe
Wound trackers.
Just like random bullshit.
The dire wolves? Like, who the fuck wants the dire wolves? Okay, that's weird. So I don't understand that. Narrative players? What do narrative players want?
Books.
Okay. Yeah.
Campaign books. Well, maybe they're not dumb, but
Okay, so that's not
and
very good.
players tape measure. This was not.
Board game fanatics. This will probably be the most
But
succinct.
it'll be Blood Bowl and Blackstone Fortress and stuff.
It's at Blackstone Fortress isn't there, Eric. Come on,
Wow.
Eric. That's not what people would want. Or actually, maybe it is. There are 4 pages. Oh, eventually, as you go down further, there are some. Or is there? Maybe not. Okay, no, it's not there. Warcry. Wait a minute.
Oh, there it is.
The Warcry starter collection is sold out. Oh, wait, there it is. Oh, it's temporarily out of stock online? What the fuck? Okay, so maybe like Aeronauticus Imperialis, Blood Bowl, that type of stuff. That's fine.
Bad list.
Painters. What does the painter want? Brushes. A, a fine detail cutter.
The new improved Citadel paint handle.
Yeah,
That'll have to be in the stocking stuffers thing too.
yeah. Oh, stalking. Wait, it's not even. Oh wait, shop now. Orc Gretchen. Yeah. So this is the stalking stuffers are all just the cheaper things. Or this little sprue of the Chaos Cultists, they're really only $10.
You get what you pay for, Adam.
No, I mean that's what I was gonna say. Like, I don't even think I'd want to pay $10 for them.
Yeah, they're bad models.
They've been overused, and I really don't like them. Yeah, those feet. Oof, oof. Okay, so their gift guide was not good, but we weren't expecting anything from that.
Couldn't have really been good.
No. I think the most exciting thing they've shown on the community page recently is they're releasing a new sculpt of, and they're calling Gorzag Gitstompa, which I don't remember if that was his name back in the day.
I don't know. I don't think he had a name.
There was
But
the one games day, Brian Nelson sculpted a knob who was cool. And so
it
they've
was basically from the cover to the Gorka Morka rulebook. There was the one orc, which they have a picture of it here, that they made, or Brian Nelson made, kind of a version of him that looks cooler than the artwork.
yes.
And it was a great model. And now they're making it in plastic, and that's fun. I mean, it's not as nice as the old model.
Yeah, I mean this new one's it's nice. It's a nice model. I don't there's something about it. Like I don't think his face looks as cool as the original one.
It's really small. But he, he yeah,
I also feel the arm holding the dagger or sword or whatever you want to call that looks a little awkward. It looks like it's rotated a little wrong. Mainly the hand.
his pistol's such that you'd be perpetually firing it.
Yeah, so that's kind of bad. So it almost seems to me like they sculpted it with him holding his sword normally, and then they decided, well, let's switch it such that he's holding it in like a reverse grip, and it looks.
Yeah.
It might also just be that he has this little wrist bracelet thing that makes his wrist look really big, and it kind of
Yeah.
it looks weird. I will say the model itself has the original model Brian Nelson made is a pretty flat, static model, which was fine. This has a little more depth and volume to it, which I think looks good. but I don't know. It's a cool model. I feel with some work, you could some of the things that I don't necessarily love on it, you could pretty easily fix. And he also doesn't. The original model had like a little skull dangling from the pistol grip, I think, which they just put that on his belt. I don't know. It's cool they were re-releasing the model. The bore of the barrel's way too big, even for the massive shells that are in it. I think the little Gretchen itself, the Gretchen looks better than most Gretchen.
Yeah.
Like, I think you did you send me a picture of the
Yeah.
original model? Okay,
Of a
here's
painted.
yeah, they cut the little skull off the bottom of the.
I mean, he is kind of wonky in his own way. I guess maybe what it speaks to me, it would have been so great that if they're redesigning this, if Brian Nelson had a crack at doing it again, because it was honestly pretty early on his time for sculpting orcs. Like, because this was Gorka Morka, so it was before he
Mm-hmm.
like completely redid the 40K line of orcs. So he was still kind of finding his feet and figuring out what he wanted them to look like. Because most of the Gorka Morka orc models, there were this plastic multi-part kit that looked pretty terrible.
Yeah, they're
uh,
pretty different.
but they had a series of like 3 metal mob models that were really cool, and
They
this was
were
like a
awesome.
point
Well,
that
so almost what I'm most interested in the model, and you don't necessarily get the greatest views of it, is like I'd like to get better views of like the anatomy of like his neck and his
yeah,
upper back, because that they spent some time trying to engineer that and think how that might work, and that I
I think
feel
a
is
lot of aspects
admirable.
of the model look better, but I think that the face looks odd to me.
I think some like if you look at they have some close-ups of the face, like I actually like it. I think it looks good. And I think how he's holding the pistol, it has a pretty nice like sense of weight and volume to it, more so than I would have expected.
It's interesting, and it's just sort of because of how his head is attached, just the orc physiology and whatnot. He's not really looking down the down the barrel of the pistol.
Yeah, and I guess these just like, orcs probably just don't do that a whole lot, which is fine.
He's looking next to whatever he's shooting at.
And what's your thought? He kind of has a belly. What do we think of his
I like
belly?
that. I like that.
Yeah, I kind of like it too.
A little fat. Not fat, but he is that kind of like Boba Fett in The
Hmm.
Mandalorian.
Also, another thing that I think is also interesting, the paint job on this model is very, very good. Like, there's a lot of like work on his like leather coat damage and stuff, which
The
looks
black
real.
looks great.
Yeah, that looks really good. And then you go and see like the extra bullets in his little box that are tumbling out. Those they just painted him silver.
Yeah,
And the
they
ones
found
pouring out of his little bag, his Daka bag for the little Gretchen.
it's
Which
a
is
fun model
weird.
though.
No, I like it. I'm glad they decided to rework it. It'll be easier for people to get this model than.
Hmm.
And it sort of reminds me how they redesigned Slambo. This feel is a better redesign than the Slambo, the re-release of Slambo
Redesign
was.
than the old one, even though it improved certain aspects of it.
The bow, the bow, the
The
bowed
boat,
legs were not improved.
no, not at all.
Yeah, so that's cool. Did you watch the video for him?
No.
I didn't either. His name, Gretchen's name is Nickit. I like that he has a little helmet like his boss, too.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this was signaling that they're going to release new orc sculpts. Probably not, but
Yeah, I think not.
it will be first available in Warhammer stores from the 26th until the 3rd of July. They will then be available on Games Workshop web store at a later date to allow as many people to add them to the club. So that's nice that they're doing that. Though, mind you, what it'll probably be is if you wait and just order the model online, you'll order it online, and then maybe 6 months later, they'll mail it to you after you ordered it. Like,
Yeah.
is that Katachan, like female sergeant with the bolter? Like Greg ordered that model online when they made it available, which I don't remember when that was, but it was months ago. And I don't think it's ever shipped.
Yeah. That's pretty bad.
Not that we really need the model, but have you been looking at the advent calendar, Eric?
Not really.
So what today's the 15th. What did they show today? They showed a little scroll in a book. It's interesting, like I almost feel this advent calendar is a little, maybe I'll say weak. It's not a very exciting advent calendar because most of the pictures, like they don't really show enough for you to really get excited about anything.
Yeah.
Because like Forge World used to have a little advent calendar of sorts where every day they would show or maybe every few days they'd show another picture of a single model, and you would
Yeah.
start to piece those together and get a full view of the model itself. And that was kind of fun because you could sort of look forward to seeing something revealed. But some of these, well, it's fun. Like here we see like a boot to like a wood elf, and the
Mm-hmm.
picture's too close that the painting doesn't look that great. Um, and I mean, like those look nice, but yeah, I don't know how much.
I feel some of the stuff the stuff is too little. It's hard to even speculate or to have any fun with the speculation perhaps because it's
Yeah,
just too little. You don't know when they will tell you more. So
yeah, I
it's
don't
not
know.
doing something, but not that compelling.
Like the probably the one that people would get most excited for is this one of like a little holster of some agent of the Inquisition. Maybe. Did you see that one, Eric?
Yeah, that's true. So that's
But
an
I mean,
exciting.
the only thing I see when I see this, I see like, wow, that's like kind of a poorly conceived and/or sculpted pistol.
The
Like,
pistol, like the grip on it is so like phoned in, like they just don't care.
well, it's like they just got a general shape, put the handle on there. Like, how? how would you even like the gun inside that? Like, oh, it's bad. It's not good. Yeah, it's like just a slab. But the main thing is the angle of the pistol grip isn't really right or conducive to like a real pistol.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that's sort of true for most of the holsters GW makes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I guess maybe it means there'll be a larger release of some Inquisitor related things, which I guess could be cool.
Yeah.
So that was probably the most exciting. From day 5, they showed this picture of that one Slanesh knight thing that has this weird trident shit.
Oh yeah, because that was all
That they
already.
already revealed. So that was a thing that I questioned, like why they chose that to be one of the reveals.
Yeah.
But like whatever.
Like if they had done that, it's just like that's also not a very exciting picture. It's like I don't really know what that is, and
The most
you know,
interesting one was probably this like marred wolf head.
yeah. Well, I feel some of the stuff there's so little of the stuff revealed that most people who even if you'd see all these, when you see the actual model, you won't even recognize it. Like, oh yeah, that
It's possible.
the little rat with the keys, kind of cute.
Yeah. It's fun. Oh, I guess one other thing that we can say, if any of you are watching the stream from last week, where it was last week where we unboxed Blood Bowl. Is that true, Eric?
That's true.
Well, so when during the unboxing, when we were looking over all the individual models, we found that for one of the sprues that we got, the one goblin model we received, 2 of his fingers were broken off and missing, which we were a little upset with that. And so we contacted Games Workshop about it and asked if they would replace the sprue. And they did. They responded back and said that they were going to replace. Forget exactly what did they say exactly.
It was nebulous as to if they're gonna replace the sprue or the whole thing. Like I don't know.
But so they are apparently replacing it, which is nice. So once we actually get the replacement, maybe we'll talk more about it. But I guess all that's to say, if you receive a sprue where something's damaged beyond repair, at least repair in any reasonable sense, you probably should just contact Games Workshop. So I guess in my case, I could have probably inserted little pieces of wire for each finger and then re-sculpted the fingers. But I don't want to fucking do that. I don't want to do that. And mind you, the thing is, like, I was excited to actually try and do something with these models. And then once that happened, it's just like, well, I'll set it down. And now maybe I won't return. We'll see.
Yeah, that does seem likely.
But the orc models they are still nice. Like, I would like to assemble at least one. But yeah, so we'll keep everyone updated on the progress of that and if and when we get the replacement. And hopefully the replacement won't also be damaged. You remember, Eric? It was over 15 years ago. Closer to when we started the hobby, we got an Imperial Guard Basilisk. Do you remember this?
Yeah, I remember.
We got one of their basilisks, and turns out they just didn't include one of the sprues for the model. So like they gave 2 of one sprue and not any of the other, so you couldn't assemble it right. And we contacted Games Workshop, and then they sent us the replacement sprue, which was great. But then when we got it, it was missing a piece. It was missing the little visor piece at the front of the tank where the driver would look out of. So it was missing that piece. So then we just, with I think some plastic card, covered that shit up, and so the driver couldn't see where it was going. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens this time, but I doubt as to whether, when we get most likely this replacement sprue, the goblin probably won't at least have the same fingers broken off,
Yeah.
right?
Probably not.
Yeah.
But it's just like, yeah, like we probably know better not to contact Forge World about the Primarch model, like the tips in the body, because they just send us another one that would also have those problems.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I guess we have another, but then we wouldn't do anything with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know, maybe we've come to an end of the things we wanted to talk about, Eric. Do you have anything?
Perhaps we have.
Oh, I guess actually, no, there was one other thing we talked about a little bit. On Instagram, one of Games Workshop's artists, Lewis Jones, if you're not following him, you should follow him on Instagram. But he recently posted an image showing one of the illustrations he drew for the new rulebook of Warhammer 40,000. I think we had talked about this briefly maybe a few months ago. There's an interesting illustration that kind of is a collage of different images of different weird alien races that he sort of devised and drew illustrations of. And it's
great.
it's a really cool piece because like just about all the different things that were illustrated and shown, they're probably like new aliens that they kind of just came up with.
That's exciting. And he kind of mentions, I guess he was given a prompt to do something like this to fill out the background a little bit, so make it clear that the 40K universe just isn't like space elves and orcs and like
Yeah.
space marines sort of thing. And yeah, I think it really helps, which is sort of one of the reasons why I was excited for like Blackstone Fortress to have weird alien stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a little, but not as much as I would like. And I feel this art is another sense that I think it does do a good job of making the universe seem vast and weird.
Yeah.
And I feel stuff like this is what I think is had to have helped make the ninth edition rulebook like a lot cooler and more atmospheric.
Yeah, so like I think it's only a matter of time, which like sometime maybe we should choose one of these little aliens and make a conversion of it. Probably this first one, the one that's like carrying all these guns and this like sort of a P90 looking submachine gun. That seems like that one would be right up our alley.
Heads are kind of cool. They're all neat.
Yeah, I like him. Well, so now what I should really do is I should convert one of these little guys here to go along with that Eldar pirate that I converted.
Yeah,
and he can just can travel along with him along with some other weird alien creatures. So we could easily make that one. or maybe not easily, but we could make that one. And then these like little domed headed dudes, I kind of like them. They kind of look like they have like octopus like tendrils and whatnot. They're cool.
They're cool. And it's nice, or it was nice just to see him post some pictures of it and just sort of talk about the process.
And so yeah, I feel the more there's stuff like this, the better. It helps sort of flesh out the universe and sort of could encourage at least some hobbyists to like kind of look outside the traditional stuff that you see in the different rule books and such.
Yeah.
So you get out there and make more aliens. That should be another one of the goals for this blog in the coming year. Well, yeah, so that's just it. Well, that's it, Eric. We will try and create another alien to go along with the Eldar pirate. Probably the little this weird little mauled techno alien with cool firearms. That's what it'll be. Well, I guess with that note, maybe we can call the stream to a close.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, okay, so thanks everyone for joining us, asking questions and comments. It's been fun. Hopefully the holiday season is going well for everyone. Everyone's staying safe and COVID free.
Yeah, agreed.
But yeah, so stay safe, stay happy, enjoy the time, keep on working on models and painting and whatnot. Whatever you're doing in your free time, have fun with it. We will talk to everyone again soon, but until next time, over and out.
See you, everybody.